Wow.
Yep.
So what are the things, any skills or hobbies or anything that you do on a daily basis to keep you moving forward, driven with your goals and targets, and you can hit your own KPIs?
Yeah.
The only podcast that it will help you grow personally, professionally, and financially. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, maybe even good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Growth Talk with Glenn, the podcast where we delve into journeys of extraordinary leaders, uncovering the secrets behind their success. I'm your host, Glenn, and today we have an exceptional guest who has embodied resilience, innovation, and leadership, Elizabeth Andrew. Elizabeth is the top producing technology sales executive, startup advisor, TEDx speaker, and author. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you are here because I know that the knowledge, your expertise, your experience, what we're going to be talking about today is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Let's do it. Elizabeth, if you don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you? What is that you do? And who do you help?
Sure, absolutely. So nice to be here. My name is Elizabeth Andrew. I am, as you had mentioned, Glenn, a technology executive. I've been a 5-time sales leader and CEO and founder of a software company that I recently sold. I have a very, very unusual background and story for tech, and we can certainly jump into that a little bit. But currently I am, now that I've sold my company a couple months ago, I am doing my own consulting at elizabethandrew.com. And I help founders and CEOs and startup, companies to really help build the infrastructure to scale a sales organization. So that's what I'm doing today, and really enjoying it.
I love it. Scaling sales organizations. How many, from the top of your head, how many steps do you believe, and like how many steps do you believe that they need to be in place in order to have an organization scale in sales?
Well, that's a really good question. Maybe it would be helpful if I sort of start with kind of my background.
Let's go for it.
I can tell you kind of where my methodology comes into in building that infrastructure that'll help build. But I'm from San Francisco Bay Area. I started out many, many years ago, decades ago, actually, in the investment industry. I was a mutual fund wholesaler. I actually helped Wells Fargo Bank build their very first mutual fund company because the laws had changed. And I was on a very small founding team for the mutual fund company, and we took it from zero to over $1 billion in assets for Wells Fargo. So it felt like a startup, even though we were, in well-funded, I guess would be the way to position it. But the last region we went into was the Northeast, because that is sort of the mutual fund capital of the world, the way the San Francisco Bay Area was certainly a few years ago for tech. And they asked me to go open up that region after I had built the inside sales team. So I did. I moved to Boston in January, which is quite cold compared to California. Sight unseen, and ended up building that entire region, calling on stockbrokers and taking that from 0 to 70 million in sales. So it was super exciting. It was a very interesting experience for me at a young age because it was the investment industry, particularly in the Northeast in those days, there wasn't a lot of diversity. Let's put it that way. I was the only woman in the room, a lot of white men that looked like my dad. And, so establishing credibility took a little bit of time. But it was a big success taking it from 0 to 70 million. When I moved east, my family said, go for 2 years, have a great time, don't fall in love. After a couple of years of building up that region, I ended up getting married and moving down to New York. And I spent 17 years as a stay-at-home mom.
Wow.
Outside of New York, in the suburbs of New York. So, I did a lot of nonprofit, which is probably harder than anything I've done professionally. But at that time, nobody, companies didn't want to hear that, right? So in 2011, I moved back to San Francisco and felt like my kids were getting a little bit older and it was time to rebuild a career. And I was completely unemployable. Nobody would hire me. I found my first job working for the West Region Director of Sales at Putnam Investments, and I found the job on Craigslist because nobody would talk to me. And I know. So that got me back into the workforce after being a mom. And I did that for about a year, and I was in San Francisco. Just felt like there's no fun to be had in financial services anymore with so much happening in tech in San Francisco. As long as I was reinventing myself and I'd have to get licenses and all that sort of thing, why not try tech? So I did. And I oftentimes laugh, Glenn, because I told you I was the only woman in the room in finance in the Northeast. Then in flash forward, I'm in my 40s and I'm the oldest person in the room in technology in San Francisco. So, but it's been a great run. I found my first job running sales operations for a startup and did that for about a year, which got me up to speed on all the tools. And then, they ran out of funding and I found another company, that company called HelloSign that I ended up being there for 4.5 years. We were acquired by Dropbox. And, so I've had the opportunity now. I moved into sales leadership there, after being an individual contributor. And I've had the opportunity to be a 3-time VP of sales and a 5-time sales leader and gone through 3 exits. And I've worked for 3 Y Combinator companies. And so it's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Great job. What a journey. 17 years, then came back. And even though that you had all that experience and building all these businesses with the big names to millions, some of them billions of dollars, nobody will even listen to you after 17 years.
Yeah, no.
That is crazy.
I like to think, honestly, and I do a lot of speaking around career reentry, just volunteering. I don't, get paid on that. I, like trying to help people get back to work. And I actually have a TEDx. It's called Let Them Back In. Trying to address companies, that there's people from diverse backgrounds that may have a break in their resume for one reason or another, and they still may have a lot of talent that they can bring an organization. So, I believe wholeheartedly in that and building diverse teams. But, in 2011, it was very, very difficult. I like to think it's a little easier today after the pandemic, to take a couple of years off and still be welcomed back into corporate. But, it's not easy. So
I bet. Elizabeth, as a SaaS CEO and co-founder, I'm pretty sure that you face a lot of challenges in that industry. What were some of those obstacles that you faced and how you overcame those?
Yeah, so I had been VP of sales at an AI company till the end of 2022, and after that, I just really felt like I actually hired a coach to coach me on multiple sources of income. I wanted to be a little bit more of an entrepreneur and not just work in a W-2 role. So I was working on kind of building this consulting thing that I'm doing now and whatnot, and CEO was introduced to me that had built a product and he was looking for a co-founder. And so I joined him, and it was a Slack app for sales team engagement, really helping to bring back, the sales floor energy for remote and hybrid sales teams. So it was a fun run. I didn't want to raise money as a CEO. I didn't want to do any fundraising because I know that changed. I've worked for a lot of VCs, and there's a lot of expectations, and the market's been different in the last year and a half than it had been before. So we bootstrapped the company, and it was a little bit of a challenging time in the last year selling software because a lot of companies are cutting software spend and becoming more efficient. But it went well enough, and we were able to sell the company. So it was definitely a win, and it wasn't what I initially hoped we could get to if the market hadn't changed so much. But we were happy to be able to find a buyer that was excited about the product as well. So that finished in about 2 months ago. 2.5 months ago. And so now I'm focusing 100% on the consulting and coaching and, helping
Mentoring and helping others.
yeah.
I love that. This is impressive because even though that you are being so successful within your journey and your career, you mentioned that you still had to hire a coach, which is nothing wrong with that. But what was your biggest takeaway from that? Like, even like you have all this knowledge, you have built all these companies massively, and here you are, you still hire a coach. Why that happen?
100%. It's interesting. Particularly since the pandemic, I think communities have become really big. There's a lot of different communities, some paid, some, free communities out there, regardless of, what your expertise is, and so I've joined a lot of communities. I've had an opportunity to meet a number of people. I believe in constant improvement and constant growth and the growth mindset. And I really believe in investing in myself. And I had been connected with a group of people in 2020. It was actually the pandemic. It was a community that did a lot of in-person events, and they started a digital. It was kind of your personal board of directors where they would put together, 8 people and all, senior level people. And there was a curriculum and, these people became very, very close friends of mine. And one in particular is a very successful CEO. And we joke because he has a coach for everything. He's got a health coach and a, personal trainer, and he's got, an executive coach. And, I don't think you can really ever, anytime, it doesn't have to be forever, but, I think, working on multiple sources of income was something that was a priority for me. And I just wanted somebody that could help me along. So, I've hired coaches a number of times. In fact, one of the companies I worked for I was VP of sales for a company by the name of Pluma, which was acquired by Skillsoft, but it was a digital platform that provides executive caliber coaching at scale. It's been acquired, but there's companies like BetterUp and whatnot where you can get coaches, and I think it's always good for career development and really anything.
I love that. And you know what? Within the industry, in consulting, coaching, and mentoring, I noticed that the most successful business owners or individuals are coachable.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much they know already, but they're always looking for that next step. And sometimes that you don't know what you don't know. And then boom, you gotta hire a mentor or a coach, get you back on track, and see the successful and see the success in the actions that you're seeking.
Yep. And right now, I've been a W-2 employee for a long time. And now the entrepreneurial journey, working from ElizabethAndrew.com, Elizabeth Andrew Consulting, is a very different approach. So I am, investing in some communities that really help me with that. And then, what I do is I coach CEOs and founders on how to build their business as well. So, yeah.
I love that. It's such a great feeling to be able to help others. What triggered that, Elizabeth? I mean, you've been a W-2 employee successfully in many companies, right? What triggered to you to say, you know what, I'm going on my own. That's it. I'm going to have my own company.
It's not for the faint of heart, to be an entrepreneur. I mean, it's, but I wanted the freedom. I wanted the ability. I think as a business owner, you have more upside potential. There's a lot more risk, but there's a lot more upside potential. I can, realistically, I can take on 4 or 5 companies at a time that I can help them build that infrastructure, because I have a lot of my playbooks and processes, and, they have to be customized, of course, for each client, but it's a lot of that's in place, right? So I feel like it can really help more people, and
I love that.
I
love that. So leadership and success are often involved in continuous, learning. What are some of the most impactful books or resources that have helped you to become this version of yourself today, Elizabeth?
I was given a book by a friend of mine, Dion Nicholas. He's the CEO of Forethought, AI CEO, great guy, called The CEO Within. That was a really powerful book that I've really enjoyed. Of course, there's a lot of different books on sales methodologies. I agree with some of them. I disagree with others. And, I think that would be my number one book for
The CEO Within.
Yes.
You, is that what it is? Within
Yes.
you? Wow.
Yeah. Let me see if I can tell you what the author is.
Would it be fair to say that we all have the potentials and we have all a CEO within ourselves? We just gotta be aware of it and discover it.
Let's see. It's actually, I take that back. It's actually The Great CEO Within.
Oh, The Great CEO.
Yeah. The Great CEO Within, The Tactical Guide to Company Building by Matt Mockery and Alex McCaw. I think one of the biggest things is you got to want to do it.
Yes.
Right. I heard, I think you have to want the job, and not everybody does. Right. And some people, I think you have to ask yourself where you are in life. And, I think I'm in a position now where I was a single mom with 3 kids that I was raising, but now I'm an empty nester and they're all launched and on their own. So, I can take the risk now where maybe I couldn't when I was trying to put them through college. And, so you have to really evaluate your own life.
You said that's something very interesting. So now that your kids are grown up, they got their own life, now you're here. Do you feel more powerful? This is your biggest time right now that you're launching this opportunity with all that knowledge that you have. Now you're into business. How does that feel?
It's exciting. It's fun. It's almost I'd been married for a long time. I was married 21 years and, I got divorced. And after my divorce, I was supporting the 3 kids 100%. And so I was all focused on career and kids. And now it feels a little bit like my time. I have been taking care of other people for a long time. And so it's exciting and scary, but it's a good time.
It's a good scary.
Yes.
It's a good scary. I mean, by the way that you express yourself and everything that I listen to you, I have no doubts that you're going to be building something massive.
Oh, well, thank you.
I have no doubts. Elizabeth, with your extensive experience in sales, what strategies do you find most effective for driving growth and also exceeding quotas?
Yeah. So, that's a big piece of it. When I go in and I work with a company, and it depends on what type of company it is, some are small entrepreneurs. I'm very good at working with companies where the CEO or the founders have been doing a lot of sales themselves and they're ready to hand it off. So they need to put process in place. So I come in and I evaluate the people, people that are in the organization, what their hiring looks like, what they want to do with that. I evaluate the processes, like what kind of methodologies they have, what kind of tools they're using, like CRMs and whatnot, what they do for forecasting and planning and how they're measuring that. And then I look at the positioning and, what their elevator pitch is and what their pitch decks look like and all of that sort of thing. And so I can evaluate, within the first month or 2, I can really take a look and understand like what areas are weak and where they need to focus more. I think a lot of it is the process for a lot of companies is making sure that everybody is following the same process. Everybody has the same presentation, everybody is telling the same story, and that it's as effective and compelling as it can be. And a lot of it I learned when I was young, when I was investment wholesaling, even though it was a very different industry, how to make a playbook and a roadmap.
Yes.
So it's like you wouldn't go on a diet and just like anytime I said, oh, I'm just going to go on a diet, I don't lose a pound unless I figure out what I'm going to eat. And, you need to know exactly how many people you're talking to, the quality of your presentation, and set up, we call them KPIs and OKRs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but
Yes.
Key performance indicators, and make a plan and stick to it.
Yeah. What I noticed when you put systems, processes, strategy, people in place, and like you say, when they follow that, it gives them control.
It gives them control.
And control equals money.
It does. Yep.
Let me ask you this, if you don't mind, Elizabeth. So you go into a company, maybe 1 or 2 months, you identify everything that needs to get fixed. The team is dedicated, they're committed to the change. The leaders are dedicated. Once everything gets implemented, what's the turnaround that you see with your experience? How fast can they start scaling once we put the systems in place?
There's a lot. That's a loaded question, and it varies a lot depending on the company, right? Because, it depends on if you're selling into enterprise organizations, or if you're selling into, B2C, into consumers, or if you're selling into small businesses. The sales cycles can look very different. Also depends a lot on what kind of money you have to invest in that. As a company that's bootstrapped, you can't hire a team to rapidly grow. You have to, find other ways to do that. So, there's not an easy answer, but it's a matter of evaluating where you want to be. What do you want to be? Let's say you want to take your company from 1 million in annual reoccurring revenue to 10 million in reoccurring revenue. I go in and I evaluate, what is your average deal size? How many deals do you have in your pipeline? What is the conversion rate like? From every time, even if it's just the CEO, every time you present the product, out of 5, how many close, so, evaluating all that so we can look at how much pipeline you're going to need in order to get to that number.
I love that. So from the 10 million, just to give you the same example, reverse engineer the entire thing.
Yep.
Elizabeth, if you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your younger self before starting your career, what would that be and why?
Wow. That's a good question.
I know. I was saving this one for the 225 mark.
The first thing that comes to mind is the single most important decision you make in your entire life is who you choose to marry. So choose wisely.
It's yeah, that's a part for life. Yeah, I agree.
That's an important one. I would also say to not be afraid to own, it's your life, right? So I actually, one thing that I coach people on, really more mentoring. This isn't part of my consulting as much, but, as an individual, this is when I was rebuilding a career. And I had been left with nothing after my marriage, and I was supporting my 3 kids. And at that time, I was not a CEO, but I'm the CEO of my own life. So I've got to bring in more than I spend. I have to, try to be responsible. I literally built what is a common term now, that personal board of directors, who could be friends or family or colleagues that I've really trusted. And, so I have somebody that if I need to figure out a marketing plan, then there's somebody I can talk to. If I'm writing my TEDx speech, there was a woman who was a friend of mine who ran, she did a lot of the content for Hello Sign. I said, would you just look this over for me? And so treat your life as if you're the CEO of your own company.
I love that. Be the CEO of your own life.
And even when you're hiring people in a company, right? You want the best people for what you're trying to build. Surround yourself with the people in your life, with what you want to be in 3 years.
Your network, the network. It will. Grant Cardone always say this to us. your network will equal your net worth. So the
Mm-hmm.
people that you surround yourself with, they'll definitely have a big impact in your life.
Yes.
Like if I'm the smartest one in my group, I need a better group. Like I need like a bigger group. No disrespect for nobody, right? That's in the
Right.
most
Yeah,
respectful way. That's amazing. Check this one
absolutely.
out. Imagine that you have a billboard in the heart of San Francisco, right? Where you can display any message to inspire upcoming tech leaders. What will you put there?
Wow. That's a good question too. A billboard. And it's not about my own business, you say.
This is from you. Let's say you have an opportunity to have a billboard in the heart of San Francisco, and the one that you can display any message coming from you to inspire tech leaders.
Yeah.
Wow.
Be authentic
Oof.
and be kind to people.
And where is that coming from, Elizabeth?
It's interesting because I've worked for a lot of very, very technical Silicon Valley CEOs, and many of them come from the engineering and product side, and brilliant, individuals that I respect a lot, but they all think the product is going to sell itself. Their emotional intelligence isn't as strong as it may be in kind of the business side and the sales side of the world, right? And so, I think we're hearing, particularly now in technology, we are hearing a lot of companies over the last year have had some pretty brutal layoffs and that just haven't been handled well. And we're hearing a lot of things that aren't being handled well. So I really wholeheartedly believe it was Richard Branson who said, your customers don't come first. Your employees come first. Take care of your employees and they'll take care of your customers.
Wow. Wow.
I wish I had made that up, but that was Richard Branson.
You can use it. That's amazing. You can use it because there's this thing that is always says like the customer is always right, the customer is always first, but without having a very good committed employee that is going to take care of that customer, nothing will work, because then if you don't have that in place, you won't have any customers.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So what are the things, any skills or hobbies or anything that you do on a daily basis to keep you moving forward, driven with your goals and targets, and you can hit your own KPIs?
Yeah.
What is those things that you do, Elizabeth, successfully?
I think this is one of the things too. I've been in scenarios where I've worked for companies and put in 80 hours a week and had 3 days off in a year. And that's part of doing my own thing now. I don't want that anymore. Like I can be equally, if not far more successful doing my own thing and providing balance. And I moved from San Francisco down to Southern California recently, and I love to take my dog to the beach, and I make it a priority to exercise and almost every day, and spend time with friends and family, and so I think I'm hoping to do a little more traveling and and put that balance in so that I'm setting realistic KPIs for myself. And it's ironic when you take care of yourself, it almost makes everything else even more successful, right? So
I mean, you have to take care of yourself. We are the vehicle. Without us, there's nothing happening without us. I love that. Elizabeth, what is next for you? You building the agency, you're building your consulting business. What is the next steps in this last 2 quarters that we got? What are you?
Right now I'm focused on, I've got a couple of consulting clients right now, companies that are in the technology space, although I am also working with another a company that has a publishing house and a community for authors and writers and helping them with their go-to-market. I'm potentially going to be working shortly with a marketing agency to help build theirs. So that's my priority immediately. Once I get a little more established and, get that moving a little bit more, I also am really interested in building out a women's leadership incubator
Nice.
for women in leadership. And so, that's.
When you say incubator, like build a community and the ones that you can show women how to become successful within their journeys?
Yeah, I had done I actually was very privileged to do this. I applied to Women's Leadership Incubator in the Silicon Valley in 2016. We met for a year. We'd meet once a month in person. And, there was a full curriculum where you work, 1 month you work on board readiness and, all these different things. And so I'm hoping to take some of that and, continue to build those kind of things in the, in my network. So
I love it. Wow.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in that too, let me know.
Let them know. How can they actually, please let them know how can they find you if they want to get in contact with you or maybe do a discovery call. How can they?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm launching my website right now. It's elizabethandrew.com. You can go there. There's actually a free downloadable sales playbook template. It's very high level, but a way for people to kind of take a look at their messaging and their target and all that sort of thing. So you can go there and sign up, and I don't have an email newsletter or anything yet, but that will help me build a list of people I can reach out to. The other best way to contact me is through LinkedIn. I'm actually at Elizabeth A. Andrew, so there's 2 A's in there. Is my LinkedIn, and please feel free to message me there as well. I can also be reached at elizabethandrew.com.
I love that. What a story. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your time, knowledge, expertise. Every single episode, I always like to over-deliver and give. Would it be okay if we close with a quote?
Sure.
From page 9 to 85, you pick a number.
Let's see. Page 5 to page number 13.
Number 13.
We'll go with Taylor Swift's lucky number.
Let's go. The right level of action is massive action.
Love it. I love that.
The right level of action is massive action. And this is why. When you take massive action with the right information, which is the one that you provide into these businesses, you will get massive results.
I love that.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. Wishing you the best of success, health, wealth, and I know we're going to stay connected. I will see you on the next one. And for everyone out there listening, keep developing the best version of yourself every single day. Elizabeth, thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you.